Welcome everyone to week 3 of OLC Live. In the first session, we talked to Gene Twinga, who's going to be one of the keynotes for OLC Accelerate this year. And then last week, we talked to several people from Davidson College about what they're doing to include student voice in some of their online coursework. They're developing some really interesting, not-for-credit, community building MOOC style activities that are fascinating, and the way that they're integrating students, both current and alumni, into those courses is wonderful. Being able to bring different perspectives into both the design and the actualization of those courses. But today we're talking to Clark Shah-Nelson, who is a veteran of Accelerate and of Innovate. Clark is actually one of the co-chairs for the upcoming OLC Innovate conference in April in Denver. And today, I guess we'll talk about both Innovate and Accelerate. And I wanted to start off with just getting some of your history with OLC. How did you get involved? When was the first time you attended an Accelerate? And what were you doing?
Well, thank you, John, for inviting me. I'm excited to be here and share some information with everyone. Thanks for everyone who ends up joining or watching this eventually. So I was thinking about this. I'm pretty sure my first, back then it was the Sloan Consortium, Asynchronous Learning Conference, was in 2007, back when I worked for the State University of New York. And it was back at the Caribe Royal Hotel before they moved over to Disney. So I think between 2007 and now, 2018, I'm going to say I haven't been every year to the conference in Orlando, which is now called Accelerate. But I would say that I have been to probably about 8 or 9 at least. I think I might have skipped a year or two in there. So, I've been to a few. I've benefited a lot from going. I've really enjoyed it. And another thing that I like to kind of talk about and mention to folks is sort of the progression from being just an attendee to being a speaker to being a session or a reviewer, reviewing proposals, to being a track chair, to volunteering in the technology test kitchen, to volunteering in other ways as a session chair and that type of thing. And so there's so many ways you can get involved and be a volunteer and pitch in and contribute and there's so many ways that the engagement at these two conferences in particular has really evolved over these last 10, 11 years. And it's very exciting, really. It's a great time to either be involved in it, get more involved in it, start coming again if you missed a few years or something like that. So I guess that's kind of my history. And actually with Innovate, I actually only got involved I think 2 years ago when it was in New Orleans the first time. I had been involved with the Blended Learning Conference back in the day and been a speaker there and done the Technology Test Kitchen. Actually, the first Tech Kitchen was at the Blended Learning Conference in Denver, Colorado in 2014. So that's a little bit about my history with the OLC, the Online Learning Consortium.
And for those people who haven't been to any of the conferences before, can you tell them a little bit about the test kitchen and about other ways that the conference is more than just talks?
Yeah, so interestingly, at one of those first couple of conferences that I went to in around 2008, probably, I met Felice Banner. Actually, I met her prior to that, but we met up down at the conference in Orlando, and at the end, we were rolling these ideas off each other. Like, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? Or what about if we could engage people this way? Or we could do things before, during, and after the conference and so on. And we had a lot of ideas flowing. And Felice had already been volunteering a lot more and getting involved. And she came up with this idea with Frank Tomsic to do this more experiential, hands-on type experiment that ended up being called the Technology Test Kitchen. And they brought me in, and what we really envisioned was a space where, unlike where you go into a room and you kind of sit and observe a presentation, that you kind of go around and you interact with people, you interact with devices and things and software and hardware and get to try things out. And try different combinations of things maybe in different ways you've done before, and have some deep conversations about your problems, your questions, things you'd like to accomplish in the classroom if you're an instructor, or if you're an instructional designer, like what are some different tools or techniques or combinations of tools that you can use to reach a certain learning objective. And so it just kind of evolved from there, and actually it's been going ever since, and it's gone through a lot of iterations and a lot of evolution. There's been, Angela Gunder came on board and brought in the chef battles that have been really hugely popular and very fun, with the gong and everything. And that's actually sort of what evolved into the Squad Goals Network as well, which for those who don't know, is basically a network of folks who, not all, I don't think all are involved to some degree with the Online Learning Consortium, but it's not necessarily, exclusive. But it's a group of people who largely met via OLC or via the Technology Test Kitchen, or who are volunteers who have come together and are sharing resources and sharing ideas and starting to write papers and write chapters and things like that, and collaborate and do presentations together. And so there's a website, squadgoalsnetwork.com, and there's a Twitter handle that's associated, and you can go to the website and share your story under stories, and listen to podcasts, and meet a lot of people. And that's really, I think, when thinking about these, going back to the two conferences, where a lot of this engagement has come into play, is that I kind of feel like when I first started going, it was kind of like I was alone. I knew a couple of people. I'd bump into them in the hallway. I'd go to sessions and listen, and maybe talk to somebody after their session for a little bit until we were kind of rushed out for the next session to come in. But I feel like now the networking capability and possibility is just like exponentially bigger and better, So even just a year ago, maybe, Accelerate started having like a Slack channel that anyone who participates can join, and you can join in the different channels that discuss different topics like instructional design or faculty issues or technology tips and so on. And so it's another way that people can connect, and you can get to know some other people, even if it's just by seeing their name, and then suddenly you bump into them at the conference and realize, like, oh, here's this person that I met on Slack that I've been communicating with, and I like the resources they share. And that's how you can sort of connect and start forming your own networks as well.
Yeah. And it's really useful, even while you're at the conference, of hearing about what are some of the sessions that are going on while you're there, what are some of the other events that are going on that maybe you didn't know about or weren't in the program itself. And it's just a great tool. And one of the things that I really liked, I think the first year that I went, maybe it was the second year, it was as soon as they started using Slack, was being able to use that as a place to find out, just we're going out to dinner somewhere, come join us. And so especially if it's your first time, that's a great way to just meet new people and be able to experience the conference a little bit more than you might otherwise at your first time of any conference. But the way that I met everybody...
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I had the same experience you did with meeting people in the test kitchen and the innovation lab. And at Innovate, it's called the Innovation Lab. And that was where I met, I think, you, and I met Ben Scragg and many of these people in the Squad Goals Network, Ryan Straight and Angela and everyone else. And I do think that they're, both at Accelerate and Innovate, we've bred this culture of just hanging out in that space, getting to meet a lot of people, and then going to the sessions, and then following up from the sessions, coming back to the test kitchen and the innovation lab, and just chatting about what it was that you're taking away from what you've seen during the day and over the course of the conference.
Absolutely. It's great to have peers to, be able to reflect with and reflect about things you've seen or heard, or that you'd like to take back to your institution and try out, or things like that. And, like you said, get together for dinner, have a meal together, get together, in the evenings, by the pool or whatever. It's a great way to be able to connect with people more, and in more ways than, than say just like a message board, at the conference or something like that.
Yeah, and I think at
And you know,
Accelerate
the
it would be particularly
is
useful
great
for
too.
meeting up with people. But yeah, I was going to say meeting up with people in the park and going out for food and going into to Disney World. I know I'm going to be bringing my 6-year-old down and just meeting up with whoever wants to go on rides with us and those kinds of things. So
Awesome.
yeah, great way to join in the experience and meet everyone.
Absolutely.
Um, so this year, in addition to your work at Accelerate, you're also the co-chair for Innovate. Can you tell us a little bit about your work on the Innovate conference?
Yeah, so last year I had the pleasure of working with Ben Scragg as co-program chairs, and you yourself were co-engagement chair. And I thought it was the best. I mean, we worked with Jess Knott and Angela Gunder as conference co-chairs, and they're just absolutely amazing. And I just loved it. Like I feel like the energy was great, the conversations were great, and I just it just seemed to be so phenomenal. So I was just thrilled when I was able to work with Ben as conference co-chairs this year, and you as program co-chair with Kate Sanka, and it's just an amazing group of volunteers and people to work with, and a great opportunity to see sort of all the things that happen behind the scenes, and get to talk about what are some directions we'd like to go, what are some iterations we'd like to make, and we've got a phenomenal team this year with you and Kate Sanka, as mentioned. We've got Sean Wheeler with you there at Oklahoma and Kate Niffett at Penn State, and it's just I think it's going to be another fantastic year in Colorado, and I have a sort of personal story that goes with it. That's because I got my start in online learning really in Denver, Colorado, and when I worked for the Denver Public Schools doing distance learning, and then I started as an online teacher in 1999 when I was leaving Colorado, moving to New York, and so this is kind of like 20 years later, going back to Denver, and it's for me personally evolved a lot because then I was an online teacher, teaching online German essentially, and then kind of evolving through being a instructional designer, instructional design manager, online learning director, and so on, and then being able to bring it back to Colorado and be in the brand new Gaylord resort, and work with such a phenomenal group of people. It's just absolutely the best. So I'm very excited, and I hope that everyone else is getting excited, submitting their presentation proposals, because there's only until September 26th to get them in. So about a week left for that. And I actually have a big reveal if I can. Is it time yet?
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
Pull off the energy mask.
so like I said, very excited about Colorado. I think everyone's going to feel the mountain vibe, a little bit. It's going to make you inside feel like you want to rise up and just you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's just the way it's going to be. We started last year with you guys doing these phenomenal evening gatherings, and game nights and so on, and that's been phenomenal. Anyway, the big reveal though is that we can now say that we are going to have a keynote speaker, Tressie McMillan Cottom, which is very exciting, and so I'm happy to be able to announce that to start letting everyone know that Tressie is going to be with us for one of our keynotes, and we're still working on another, and so that's very exciting. Tressie is just doing phenomenal work in the field of sociology, and yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. So everyone, start making plans to join us.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Tressie's from VCU and has been doing wonderful work for the last couple of years. She was on Trevor Noah last year. I know that was it was a great interview, and I think her book was called Lower Ed, right? About just about challenges in modern education, affording education, and for-profit schools and all the other problems, sort of going on right now. But yeah, I'm super excited about Tressie and just a lot of the stuff that you're bringing to the conference. Last year, one of the big successes at Innovate, I think, was the conversations format of some of our presentations, of just encouraging people to come in and lead a conversation rather than give a paper to the audience. And we're can't wait to continue that tradition. And I'm looking forward to some of your flavor on the engagement events and the yodeling competitions and the mountain hiking that I'm sure will be going on, and who knows what else that you're going to bring into it. Some
I was just
EDM,
thinking
I imagine.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I was just thinking I need to trim my beard, but with the yodeling and stuff, maybe I just need to let it grow all the way to April. I don't know.
I think you need to grow the beard, and people need to prepare themselves for some lederhosen. So yeah, that'll be exciting. Are there any other features or aspects of the conference that you're particularly looking forward to?
Another one that I want to point out are the career forum roundtables that were very popular last year, and they're a great opportunity to, that and the conversations, not presentations. So those two formats, I think, are somewhat unique to Innovate in that they really prioritize no slides, just people sitting around a table or around a room having a conversation about a certain topic. It can be a very focused conversation, can be a very broad conversation. And it gives you an even greater chance to, network and meet people and get to know what people are talking about and thinking about. So it's a really great format. And I was thinking about the difference between Accelerate and Innovate, because I think a lot of people, that comes to people's minds, like, what really is the difference between the two? I mean, they're both online learning consortium. They both are predominantly focused on online learning, digital learning. And the couple of the conclusions I came to, and you might disagree or have other ideas, but are, I think of Innovate as being a little bit smaller and a little bit more intimate and a little bit more sort of networking focused, but that's not necessarily exclusive, because certainly there's tons of engagement, and it's going to be an amazing year in Orlando for Accelerate as well for engagement. There's some phenomenal things I can't even mention that I don't even know about. Wait, that doesn't make sense. But one of the things I was thinking is also that if you think about that curve, the sort of innovation curve, I think of it like Innovate tends to be a little bit earlier in the curve with more sort of what are the first layers of the curve? It's like early adopters, right? And so on. And there's the big top of the curve and massive adoption, and then kind of fall. So I think of it just being a little earlier in that whole curve than Accelerate, in terms of it's focused more on innovation. It's focused a little more on experimental things and trying things out, whether it's in research or in practitioner things, or tools and technologies that are more cutting edge and a little bit less tried and true, and a little bit, like I said, more focused on some of the conversations and so on. But I think both are extremely valuable, and I mean, if you got the budget, I would say go to both. You get a lot, or take, stagger them or whatever, because I think each really has a lot to offer in its own very unique way.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Accelerate this year. How do we start to get people to buy in and adopt some of these models that we've been playing with at Innovate? How do we sell them, and how do we get people excited about them? Once we've figured out how we want to implement them into a classroom, how do we get them adopted by departments and colleges, and really see the next stage of the evolution of it? And so, yeah, I think both conferences have their strengths, and you can sort of see natural progressions move through. Although Accelerate scooped us this year, I was really excited about bringing some more gaming to Innovate as part of what I wanted to do there. And Accelerate is going to have some really exciting new game elements that they just beat us to the punch on. And so if you've got time, if you're coming to Accelerate, go down to the test kitchen and see what Maddie Shelgren's doing down there, because it's going to be outstanding. And I'm still irritated that they got her and we didn't. So
can we say the word? Can we say the words? Escape room.
Yeah, there's going to be some escape rooms, some breakout rooms, some collaborative team building, some getting to know your neighbor kind of stuff, and Maddie is brilliant, and the narratives that she's coming up with, and the storylines, and just the way that those are going to integrate into the conference are going to be spectacular. And so we're going to have a hard time matching or beating that. So they're laying down the gauntlet, and we're going to have to come up with something. So I'm trying to get Keegan's wheels turning for Innovate for that one.
It's always evolving, and it's about the people who volunteer and, put energy and ideas into it. And, you've got ideas and energy and a little bit of bandwidth, then it's a great place to be able to contribute and see a difference being made.
And,
it's OLC
in my showing up and volunteering.
Sorry, what's that?
I was going to say, it's just all about volunteering and showing up and, as you said, just throwing in your ideas and making them happen.
Yeah. And I think that OLC is very open to, the participant experience and learning more about it and evolving and taking feedback in mind and then helping that for the next iteration every time, So whether it's, with the scanning of the badges or whatever and so on, there are a number of things that I've seen basically when people question that OLC takes it to heart and really thinks about it and makes it work,
Yeah, my background's in history of science, history conferences, and the difference between going to sort of a big academic history conference and going to an OLC conference is part of what really got me excited about moving into this space of innovation and technology and education, is that it's just so much more participatory of a model, so much more engagement focused and experiential in the ways that we communicate with each other at conferences, as opposed to a lecture style conference that OLC is just a ton of fun.
Absolutely. Do you think is there a way we can get in case Ryan or Yin have any questions or anything, they can post a question or something like that, or we can.
Yeah, we've got a chat box going on down here, and we can just pull them up on stage as well. If either one want to raise their hand and come up here and join the discussion.
Absolutely.
Ryan Demers.
And Ryan Straight, by the way, is one of the geniuses behind the Squad Goals Network, the website, the WordPress, and all the podcasts, and making all that stuff work behind the scenes. The technology that's doing all that amazing stuff, pulling things in with feeds and so on. I don't even understand it.
Yeah, and he's going to be helping us out and Innovate with engagement and featured speakers, I think.
Exactly.
And I met Ryan in the innovation lab as we were both playing with game development 2 years ago, maybe. So.
All right, that was in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, back in New Orleans, which was a lot of fun.
All right, Yin has a curious question. How do you go about inviting keynote speakers? Very carefully. And really, like Ben Scragg has been kind of heading that up with, it starts with finding out how the person you're looking to book works. Some of them work with a booking agency or a particular person. Some you can, if you can't find anything on their website about how to, get them booked, then you can maybe just try directly contacting them to see if they have somebody they want to, work with to book or something like that. But it's really a conversation, and it takes plenty of time, that's for sure. But
a lot of it, the early stages are in just us chatting about what's exciting and what's going on in education, right? And so I think, with Tressie, it was about some of the ways in which she's bringing up social justice and inclusivity and affordability and just access to college. And then, just who is exciting, who's got messages that we, that we can't wait to hear and that we think will excite the audience. And so I know Accelerate, I already talked to Jean Twinga, and I can't wait to hear more from her about, just understanding this current generation of students And then Jane McGonigal is always a really exciting speaker. If you haven't seen her stuff, you can check it out. It's all over YouTube and TED. But Jane is a fantastic speaker.
Very exciting. Yeah, and the inclusion and diversity is certainly a key and primary. I don't know if I want to say focus, or at least it's an underpinning of what we're doing with planning these conferences, and trying to make sure that we're doing so in inclusive and diverse ways, and making things as accessible as possible. Accessibility is certainly a great topic to learn more about and network with people about. Is I would say one of the huge topics of today, and alignment to the conference theme. Yeah, so sort of going back to the keynote speaker, yeah, that's definitely something that's a big part of that, is how does this speaker align with the theme of the conference, or some of the key topics that the speaker speaks about or has spoken about in the past or is writing about now, and how those align with the conference, and some of the goals of the conference are very important.
Yeah, and for the program for Innovate,
sorry?
I was just going to say, the program for Innovate, we're focusing a lot on openness and inclusivity this year and in the last couple of years. And so Tressie was a really obvious fit, in terms of those themes.
Definitely. Well, let's see.
I think. See, we've got.
Do we get to the aliens yet? We'd have to get Ryan on stage to be the alien.
Yeah, we can. Maybe we'll exit out with some more yodeling. But I wanted to thank you, Clark, for joining us, and maybe you can kick us out. I'm John Stewart. We'll be back next week with more of the organizers from Accelerate, and we'll see you here on OLC Accelerate Live.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Blue ribbon. Thanks again. Cheers. And thanks to our viewers.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, hope we'll throw this up on YouTube pretty soon. I think Chris can cut it after the fact, so that'll be a good cutoff with your yodeling exhibition. Yeah. Thanks for joining me. I don't even know when the next meetings are that we have, but I'm sure I'll talk to you again later on in the week.
Indeed. Thanks, John. Have a great rest of your week.
You too.
Cheers.